This is Jay Sekulow. We've got breaking news. A deal to release the Israeli hostages imminent.
Keeping you informed and engaged. Now more than ever. This is Sekulow. We want to hear from you. Share and post your comments or call 1-800-684-3110. And now your host, Jay Sekulow.
Welcome to the broadcast, everyone. And early this morning, I should say, later in the afternoon, Israel time, I got word that there was the negotiations for a hostage release, at least for some of the hostages, had gotten much more serious. In fact, I was provided information about what the deal would look like. And the way the Israeli war cabinet is meeting right now, as well as the government, they have a separate government cabinet. So you've got a war cabinet, which is certain individuals. You've got the regular coalition cabinet. They're all meeting. There was a tense meeting yesterday between hostage families and the government because, obviously, there's this issue of what is priority one? Is priority one defeating Hamas, or is it getting the hostages back? I view it one and the same. I think they're the same. But Israel's leadership is making clear that job one here is to end and eradicate Hamas as a threat to Israel, period. But on the hostages, it looks like, at least here's what they're saying at this point, 53 hostages, or roughly, and that, by the way, that number could go up to 90, would be released. That would be the women, children, elderly, and some that are also individuals that are sick. So those would be the ones released, and the Israelis would be releasing hostages, and it's about, 3-1 about, what did they say, 150? 150 yes. For the 53 to 100. That's not unusual in that part of the world because of the nature of the way that hostage negotiations go. The Israelis' view is one is Jewish life is worth that, multiple of anyone else because of the size of the state, frankly. But it's a process, and it hasn't been decided yet. There will still be over 100 hostages, more than likely, but this would at least be, Cece, a framework of a starting point. And we've been, by the way, Cece and I have been working on this with our team. Literally every morning at 9 o'clock, we have a major call with leaders from all over the world, lawyers from all over the world, policy people from all over the world working on this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it is encouraging that some of the hostages, and I do hope that it's up to half of them, are going to be released. Obviously, then there's still a concern with the hostages that are left, as they've taken about 250. But this is definitely a start, and if they release the women and the children, those are the ones that really we do care about their health and safety. I mean, there was a baby that was 9 months old, now 10 months old. For Hamas to be taking care of a child, you do worry about the safety. So I hope that this is just the beginning of the negotiations and that every single hostage is ultimately released.
Of course, it politically, and this is what's interesting, Logan, politically, I just got an alert. Politically, something's just happened with the European Commission. So,
we'll take it out.
Let me tell you what it is. The European Commission, this is bad, was going to defund Hamas. That was on the table to defund Hamas, and they say there's no evidence to justify a defunding of the Palestinian Authority and its relationships with these entities. This is where the European side of this is very, very complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear from you, too. We have just 1 minute in this segment left, and we'd love to get your thoughts on this. Give us a call, 1-800-684-3110. That's 1-800-684-3110. We got a packed show today. We'll have, obviously, Cece's on with us. We have Rick Rennell joining us later. And we're going to keep this discussion going. So be a part of that as well. You can also be a part of our Faith and Freedom Drive right now. Go to aclj.org. Join the ACLJ. Join us in the fight right now. Be part of the Faith and Freedom Drive. Go to aclj.org and consider becoming an ACLJ champion.
When you do become a champion, that means you donate each month to the ACLJ, and that's made a huge difference. By the way, we are up to 17,500 champions. My goal next year would be close to 30,000 by the end of the year. That would be a huge impact for the ACLJ. All that means is you're donating monthly. So this month you donate, it's matched in our Faith and Freedom Drive, and if you can give monthly, you become an ACLJ champion. The word is that the European Union has done an investigation and has said that Hamas is not diverting the money to ill-gotten activities. This is where we got to be very cautious, folks, about any of these things. We'll be back with more. We'll take calls, 800-684-3110.
morning, a breakthrough in the hostage negotiations is closer than it's ever been, U.S. officials say.
Mr. President, is a hostage deal near? I believe so, but I'm not prepared to talk to you. So? Yes. Thank you.
The hostage talks have progressed to a sensitive stage. What is that, and what do we know about those details?
We know that it is progressing, and they've been talking about this for days now. And the reason they use that term sensitive, DeMarco, is because I'm told by a negotiator who did the last hostage deal that even after the ink is dried, this whole thing could fall apart. There is so little trust on either side. Now, the broad parameters of the deal are this. About 50 hostages, maybe a little bit more, all women and children, would be brought back to Israel. In exchange, Hamas would get a 5-day ceasefire.
And now the people of Israel are demanding return of as many hostages as possible. So, yes, a deal will be made. There'll be less than the total number of 200. Hopefully it will be higher than 50 or 60.
Hamas, as we hit them hard, needs that time out. It'll only be a temporary ceasefire, but they need that time out. And as a result, we believe the probability that will agree to a release of our people has gone up. Once again, it's not done until it's done. I can't tell you it's going to happen, but I think the probability of it happening has gone up. But ultimately, it depends on Hamas, and they are a brutal terrorist organization, and it's difficult sometimes to understand how they calculate the situation.
We will only have a temporary ceasefire, and any kind of other ceasefire, a larger aspect of a ceasefire is we're talking about an end to this war, and this will only happen after Hamas's rule in Gaza is eliminated, and once we guarantee that terrorism will no longer emanate from this territory ever again.
Sekulow, we are taking your phones at 1-800-684-3110. Also, there's a big part right now of our Faith and Freedom Drive. We are obviously talking about the imminent deal that looks like it's going to take place with the hostage releases. Obviously, Dad, we just make sure people know this will not be everyone.
Yes.
This will not be, it could potentially be a massive amount of hostages. And look, it's a miracle that 100 are potentially still alive.
Frankly,
the
fact that there's going to be a hostage exchange should be a good sign for all the families, including our clients, because that means they're alive. But by the way, part of this is also to get a list from the Red Cross as to who the hostages are. And for one of our clients in particular, that's important. Let me read you what the deal is. I got this early this morning. Here's what it is. Hamas will release at least 53 hostages. We now think that's 90. And maybe there may be more added later. The two cabinets and the government will meet tonight, that's the Israeli government, to approve the deal under which Israel is expected to accept at least 53 abductee children, elderly women, and mothers, and release about 150 Palestinian women and children. Hamas will receive a 4-day respite during which it will try to locate 20 more abductees. There are 20 that they're saying that they don't have custody of. We think they're with Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is not good news. The key is the 3 Palestinian prisoners for every Israeli abductee, and the days of respite. Will that give them time to regroup? Look, when you're dealing with a military operation, stopping is very difficult. But I'm sure there's been an assessment made by the military that this is something they can do, or at least they think they can do, Logan, in order to proceed on this.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that there are comments coming in, maybe one from Rumble from Comfort said, how do you make a deal with a terrorist organization and trust them when there is this sort of situation? How do you even know that they're going to live up to their end of the bargain?
You don't. And Cece smirked at that, and I'll let her talk about that. But you have to just operate with your eyes open
as
here.
If they are a legitimate, you have to deal with them as if they're a legitimate.
Yeah, you got to deal with them as if they're a legitimate negotiating power. They are the authority in Gaza. Qatar is the intermediary, but they are terrorists. So nothing they say you should believe.
Yeah, and that's really my smirk, is because every time any of these deals kind of come to the table, my initial statement is, well, we'll see. We'll see what's happened. Because we actually there have been days previous that they said there are deals on the table. Yeah. So we'll see. I pray that Hamas does do the right thing and they do release these hostages. And just like Logan said, it is encouraging that they have 100 that are still alive to be released.
It's also important for people to understand we filed up on these people at the United Nations just last week.
Yes. So we filed a communication with Working Group on Enforced or Involuntary Disappearances, and their mandate is to find any citizen who's abducted. They are under a mandate to try and find their location and work with the forces that actually abducted these victims. And so we are actively, we have several cases there, and we're adding several cases more.
Six more that we're going to add this week, including one with women and children, so we're going to get on that right away. Logan, we got calls coming in. We'll take calls on this, 1-800-684-3110. Obviously, this is unfolding, so, things can change drastically in the next 24 hours, 48 hours. We had plans that we were working on for overseas, for Europe. You don't know now if that's going to actually happen. Yeah. I mean, it's not going to happen the same way because of this kind of situation.
Yeah, I was just in New York City over the weekend, and I have to say there was a bit of hope on the streets, if you will, because I was in some of the more Jewish areas, and to see that it wasn't this. The TV kind of portrays it as New York right now is under complete assault by Hamas sympathizers. And yes, there's some of that. You see some of the posters torn down on the streets everywhere. But you also see a lot are still up. You see a lot of people who are there in support. You see a lot of Israeli flags flying. So, you know what? It shows that America has not necessarily forgotten, even if the media has made us felt that way. And these are some positive movements. But yeah, let's go ahead and take some calls. Let's go to Deborah, who's calling in Illinois on line 2. You're on the air.
Hi, Deborah.
Hey. Yeah, I was just saying that, or thinking that it's kind of the European Union seems like they're supporting both sides. It's not really much different from the Biden people who say they stand with Israel, but yet they're funding Iran, who's supporting Hamas. So
look, it's an interesting dynamic at the European Union, and that's where we were planning on going next, actually. And that is they came out initially and said they condemned Hamas. They told Hamas to stop utilizing hospitals as launching pads. It made them legitimate military targets under international law, and they backed Israel completely. There was a lot of concern expressed to Hamas, to EU, about money they're giving to Gaza, which goes in the hands of Hamas. And they said they did an internal review. I just got that information sent to me minutes ago, and they found that there was no misuse of funds. You know that's not correct. Money is fungible. It does free up money for them to do terrorist activities. The European Union is conflicted. There are countries within the European Union that are supportive of Israel. There's some that are not. We will be dispatching a team, regardless of whether Americans go or not. We will be dispatching a team from the European Center for Law and Justice. They're already working on this, to Brussels and probably Paris in the next, probably in about 2 weeks, unless everything changes again, which it could.
Yeah, this is changing minute by minute. Literally, we wake up in the morning and what we decided the last thing last night has totally changed. And here again, with this potential hostage release, that does change some of the items that we had on the table.
Well, it was interesting because we were planning on a major, we were going to probably have 10 or 15 ACLJ, ECLJ folks in both in Brussels for the European Parliament and also in Strasbourg and then in Paris for meetings. Now, what's happening now is a lot of that dynamic's going to change. So this is where flexibility in these negotiations, we know this, we do a lot of hostage negotiations, is part of it. But the Qataris, obviously, if they are able to broker this, Qatar then has made a major move, Logan, here, that maybe they've got a window open to continue whittling this down. This is a process of, the more you hit the targets in Gaza, the more likely it is Hamas is going to need a reprieve, the more likely it is we'll get hostages released.
Sure, and there are comments going in. Obviously, it's a positive move that hostages are getting free.
Anytime you get anybody out, it's a positive
But I guess
move.
There is just that concern of what does that mean in terms of the ongoing conflict and the potential for what you consider an Israeli win.
Israel's goal is the elimination of Hamas. That is the military target. That is priority. For a lot of them, it's priority 1. Priority 2 is the hostage release. For some, it's the same. It's all the same. I think, look, Hamas has to be eliminated. Gaza cannot be turned over to the Palestinian Authority. That's where the Biden administration has us totally wrong. That will not work. It doesn't work. Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the PA yesterday, said that Israel was responsible for the massacre at the concert, that it was some drone that went awry. And this is absurd. But of course, he denied the Holocaust, too. Mahmoud Abbas got his PhD from a university in Russia. So, and you know where in the old Soviet Union. So you know where these people are coming from. So they're not a trustworthy partner. We've got a comment coming in on Rumble saying, hey, Hamas is a terrorist organization. How do you trust a terrorist organization? And the answer to that is you don't trust the terrorist organization, but you work but they are the authority. I hate even saying that. So you have to work with them at least to try to secure the release of some of these.
Yeah, in Gaza right now, it is Hamas who is the governing authority there. And yes, they are terrorists, and yes, you cannot trust them. That is all true. But when you're trying to negotiate the release of hostages that Hamas is in physical control of, you have to, really just trust that they will do the right thing. And I think that's where international eyes and international pressure helps, because Hamas, I think, maybe feels more pressure that they need to honor their word when the world is watching them.
Well, this is what we got. This is Joy on Rumble said, how do you make a deal with a terrorist organization and trust them? You don't trust them. You could still possibly make a deal. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And look, we're headed into a break here. I just want to encourage people to call 1-800-684-3110. But we are, headed towards the end now of our Faith and Freedom Drive. But we are hopeful that the hostages will be freed. But there's going to be a big fight up ahead.
Well, they're not going to free all the hostages because they'll lose their entire leverage. So it's going to make our job actually more difficult once the women and children are gone, because that's the empathy, that's the sympathy, that's the emotion. But we're going to have clients that we represent that are still going to be held by Hamas. But we're also going to find out if they're alive because they're going to produce a list. That is critical. Some of our clients were wounded when they were taken in. So that becomes part of this. I want to say this to our donors. We are, as Logan said, we've got about 10 days left, a little bit less, on our Faith and Freedom Drive. And we are, it's hard for me to describe for you the amount of work that's going into on the hostage situation and defending Israel. We are literally on Zoom calls every morning with lawyers and advisors and government affairs people from all over the world. We do it. Cece's on it. We do it every morning, usually 6 days a week, to get ready for what's the kind of the day messaging points. And obviously a lot of things changed in the last 24 hours and may change more tonight. This is all happening because of your support for the ACLJ. None of this would happen, whether it's the hostages getting freed, whether it's 6 new UN filings that we're about to do, major meetings in Europe next week that'll be conducted by our ECLJ team and others. And at the home front, we've got a new thing, which we're going to get into maybe later today or possibly tomorrow. The IRS targeting conservative groups again. All of that's happening. We're in our matching, our Faith and Freedom Drive. Any amount you donate is matched. And if you can make that gift monthly, you become an ACLJ champion. And that drastically changes how we can engage these things. So I encourage you to become part of the Faith and Freedom Drive at aclj.org/Faith and Freedom. Any amount you donate will be doubled. We'll be back with more, including your phone calls at 800-684-3110 right after this.
Now, earlier today, about 6-7 hours ago, a number of alerts were coming out of the Middle East suggesting that there was progress in freeing some of the hostages. This is a massively complex matter here. But it's giving hope to some of the families, and my next guest might be one of them. LaRon Berman, his 2 younger twin brothers were taken hostage by Hamas back on the 7th of October. You're near the Haifa district in northern Israel. As of now, do you believe or do you know that your twin brothers are alive?
As of now, we really don't know if they are alive or not. If they are injured or not. It's been 45 days of not knowing. We have no information. We have no information if they are part of the new deal that are spoken of. Nothing. 45 days later, no one knows. It's a very complicated situation for everyone involved. The families foremost, it's a blessing for everyone who got released from being captive. It is a blessing to their families. But there are 237 hostages. Not all of them are children, not all of them elderly. My twin brothers, Gali and Ziv, are 26, and we don't know if they are part of the deal. They are their mother children. They are not young children, but they are still children.
Hey, LaRon, they're lucky to have you. Stay brave.
Thank you very much.
And we'll hope for the best, okay? maybe today is that
Thank
day.
you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you for keeping the hostages in the front pages. Thank you. It's
Will
important.
do.
Thank you very
Will
much.
do. Hang tough. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. Taking your calls at 800-684-3110. One of the things we talked about this morning on our call, because if you're just joining us, looks like upwards of at least 53 hostages, maybe as high as 100, may be released, which would be a good start. It's going to shift very much to we've been doing a diplomatic aspect of it. That's why we're in Washington. That's why our teams are in Europe. But it also looks like it could be shifting, Logan, to our clients. We just showed this in a break to our people watching on our social media platforms. One of our clients was on Fox and Friends this morning. The question there is it becomes a media campaign.
Yeah, I think so.
To keep it in the forefront. And we've done a lengthy, what would you call it? Not a documentary, I guess, yet.
Yeah,
but
special
yeah.
presentation that we'll reveal at some point here soon. But it's changing each and every day, each and every hour. There's so much more. I do think that you may be seeing it as a perspective a bit different than I think Americans will, which I think most Americans will still see that there's 100 plus hostages.
Yeah.
I understand where you think there may be a diplomatic, legal reason why these are different kind of hostages. I don't think, though, the American people really feel any different between whether it's a woman or a child or a 20-year-old man.
No, but it's going to affect the sympathies of the world community, because they're going to try to, and you make a really good point. These are not enemy combatants. So the fact that these are military aged, and they may or may not be in the military, they're probably in the reserves, but they were not taken as a prisoner of war.
Right.
They were not taken as an adversary combatant, which would put in a whole different framework.
Well, everyone
there's
there
still
is-
civilian. There's still civilian hostages.
Well, everyone is a member of the military in Israel. So,
Yeah,
so it's a bit
to age
different.
about 50, and
Right,
sometimes older.
So it's different when the situation, you may think, well, these guys are all military guys. Well, everyone is.
But
it's a bit different.
We've got to keep it in the forefront politically until every one of them are home. But let me tell you this: Israel has got to eliminate Hamas. That cannot be a condition that we stop the war. The ceasefire thing this is a reprieve for 4 or 5 days. Is mostly to get the hostages out. I'm sure, and to get supplies in.
I do want to say President Biden made a statement. This is not an audio statement. This is a written statement that came out. I believe he was speaking during a meeting at the White House, and they released this. I'll read it to you now. But we're now very, very close. Very close. We can bring some of these hostages home very soon, but I don't want to get into the details of all the things because nothing is done until it's done. And if we have more to say, we will, but things are looking good at this moment. So that's a very positive sign.
Yeah, and we know also that Israel's war cabinet and their government cabinet are meeting right now. It's evening in Israel time to see if they will accept it. If they do, they believe the hostage release will be starting as early as could be as early as tomorrow. So there is a lot of moving parts, and you've got to be flexible here and respond at the speed of relevant at the same time, and realize you're dealing with people that the day that you think the release is going to happen could just say, no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah. And really, I think that what has helped get to this point is the international pressure
100%.
that we have seen the Council of Europe, that we have seen the European Union, that we have seen the United States State Department, we have seen Congress come out, condemn Hamas, and support Israel's right to self-defense. And that needs to continue. And like you just said, the European Union is also already trying to kind of backpedal a little bit of saying, we're tracking the funding, and we don't really think that the funding that we're giving to Gaza, which is Hamas, is really going into the wrong hands, which we know that's wrong. We know it's being used to attack Israel. So we just need to keep the international pressure on.
Let's take a phone call.
All right, let's go ahead and go take Chandler first, actually, Maryland, because it's a question I think a lot of people have about very specifics, and we can at least answer that. Sadly, probably we don't know, but Chandler, go ahead with your question.
So, baby was born, sadly, into the hostage situation, and I was just curious to know if there was any mention of a maybe 4-day-old infant and his mother or her mother being released.
If this does come to fruition, if the arrangement comes to fruition, I believe that those are exactly the type of hostages that will be released. And there's two reasons for this. Number one, that's the agreement that has been worked out. But number two is logistically, I'm telling you another reason Hamas is doing this. Logistically, caring for these children, caring for the elderly, which are bargaining chips for them, and it's very difficult for them logistically because they are moving. They've moved into, by the way, they've moved south. They say they've moved into the south portion of the Gaza as of now because they're pushing out of so there's going to be some activity down there. That's what I think it is. But I would be optimistic. I won't be optimistic until I see them released, but I think, yes, the baby and the mother should be in that
Right,
group.
and that's what we've heard so far is the
Yes.
deal is women, elderly, and children. So you would assume, again, we don't make any assumptions, but if you are making an assumption that it would be this mother and her newborn child.
But understand
would
that
be
the
included.
ACLJ, we're really on top of this. I mean, we've got about 6 lawyers in the United States working on this. We've got our office in Strasbourg right now. 4 of our team there, this is what they're doing until these hostages are home, are working on this. Like I said, there's a major thing happening in Europe on the 5th of December. So it's moving as far as who's going to participate right now because of the situation's moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take another phone call. Let's go to Cheryl, who's calling in New York on line 4. You're watching on Facebook. Thank you. Cheryl, you're on the air.
One of the few on
Hi,
Facebook.
thank you.
Go ahead, Cheryl. Thank you for watching.
Hi.
Hey.
Sure, thank you. So I love Netanyahu. I pray for him all the time. I think that this is, to me, like reminiscent of what happened with Gilad Shalit, if you remember, many years ago. And he was being held hostage by Hamas for like 5 years. And Netanyahu kind of, gave in and released all of these Palestinian prisoners. And many of them went back to the battlefield. And many of them were involved in this terror attack.
Yes, you're right. And I worked on the Gilead Shalit matter, so I understand exactly what you're saying. Let me tell you what the difference is going to be this time. There's going to be no battlefield for them to go back to. Israel's going to eliminate Hamas. It's going to be done. The military goal here is the elimination of Hamas as an operating entity and threat. And Gaza is not going to be run by Hamas. It's not going to be run by the Palestinian Authority. That part of the world, Logan, is about to change drastically.
Yeah, and I think that unless something major happens, major change, I think that's what people are curious about with stuff like the negotiations that are happening right now. Just does that put a halt to those plans?
No. And I think that I think there'll be some that you don't even hear the peaceniks in Israel calling for that right now. So no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Let me say this. We only got 2 minutes left of this segment. We got another half hour of the broadcast. We are opening our phone lines for your calls at 1-800-684-3110. That's 800-684-3110. The fight to free the Israeli hostages continues, and now it's about to enter, we hope, a new phase where we may have as many as 50 to 100 released. That would be a big win. It's not the end of the game. It's not a game. It's not the end of the battle, but that will be a significant move. We are also in the last 10 days of our Faith and Freedom Drive, and we want you to participate. This is the ACLJ Faith and Freedom Drive. We hope the hostages are freed, or at least a group of them, but there's going to be more to fight for. We are filing 6 new UN filings this week. Our teams are going to be in Europe next month for major work on this issue. We also have an old fight that's resurfaced, the IRS continuing now to target conservatives. We are going to be representing, it looks like, one of the groups that have been targeted on that. We have our FOIA lawsuit. We're getting this on tomorrow's broadcast. We have a lot of interesting information about that through our litigation. In order to meet these really historic challenges that we're facing right now, we really need your support. Any amount you donate is doubled. So when you donate, and go right to aclj.org/faith and freedom, it's doubled. So if you donate $20, we get a matching gift. We've had people that have donated more. We have people that donate less. Whatever it is fine. If you can donate monthly, you become an ACLJ champion. And the report that I got today is when we started this campaign, Logan, 6 weeks ago, we were at 15,000. We now have 17,500. That makes a huge difference.
I think it was actually closer to 14,000. I think it was 15,000. So, we've added a lot of new people. We couldn't do it without you. So become an ACLJ champion right now. Go to aclj.org. Obviously, all donations made are effectively doubled right now, and we appreciate all of that support as well. So if you can just make a one-time donation, that's fine. Do it right now. Or become an ACLJ champion, again, a recurring donor. We'll be right back with the second half hour of Sekulow.
We're at a moment in history we prayed we would never see again. We're experiencing global attacks on our faith and our freedom that we haven't seen in generations. What we are witnessing in Israel could be the precursor to a second Holocaust.
This was a full-scale land, sea, and air invasion. Policies have consequences, and look in the world we're in. Russia's fighting with Ukraine. China about to invade Taiwan. The Middle East imploding.
Here at the ACLJ, we are uniquely positioned to meet these evil attacks head on. We've assembled an elite legal team in our offices here, in Jerusalem, and around the globe, all thanks to you, our donors. In order to meet legal demands of historical proportions, today we are launching our Faith and Freedom Drive. Your gifts will be doubled, dollar for dollar. We need you now more than ever. The country needs you, the world needs you, and Israel needs you. Have your gift doubled through the ACLJ's Faith and Freedom Drive today. Go to aclj.org.
Keeping you informed and engaged. Now more than ever. This is Sekulow. And now your host, Jay Sekulow.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. Let me get you up to date. So here's what's happened. I'm going to read it verbatim. This is what I got this morning from our colleagues in Israel, and this is what is being proposed. It is significant because it is at least a sign that we are close to a release of hostages. This is what it will look like, at least phase one of this would look like. 53 hostages will be initially released, and that could go up as high as 90 or 100. The Israeli cabinet, both the war cabinet and the government cabinet, is meeting tonight to approve the deal under which Israel is expected to accept at least 53 abductees. This will include children, elderly women, and mothers, and release about 150 Palestinian women and children. Hamas will receive a 4-day respite in the fighting, during which it will try to locate at least 20 more abductees. It's thought that those abductees may be with the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, so that's where probably they are. We'll know tonight, we'll know within hours, actually, if the Israelis are going to accept it. What's interesting about this, and I think important, and this is important, these things, you've got to be very flexible because they could change on a moment's notice.
Absolutely, and we've seen that. Like I said earlier, that we go to bed on these calls and these texts, and we have one cause of action or a plan of action in place, and by the time we wake up, it's all changed early in the morning. So we do have to be able to kind of just turn on a dime and just keep hoping and praying that the hostages are released, however that happens.
Yeah, so I look, it's a process. Like I said, we've got our European team working on the EU portion of it right now. We did it here in the United States. We're looking at the international laws that'll apply in this. Remember, they're not prisoners of war. So and of course, Hamas isn't going to apply by international law of the armed conflict or the Geneva Convention. This is a very good question that's coming in. Can we go ahead? Do we have time to take it, Logan, or should we hold it for the next time? Yeah.
Yeah, we can go ahead. We got time. Let's go to Susan in Maryland on line 3. You're on the air.
Hey, Susan.
Thank you. Israel, first of all, Israel cannot accept a list or pictures of hostages that they negotiate for, because AI capabilities could falsify those images. 100%. Israel must have a visible hostage corridor provided by the Red Cross that Israel can visibly verify 240 citizens in leadership, to see the bodies verified for ceasefire that they're negotiating. Otherwise, they have no idea what they're dealing with.
Listen, you're correct. I will say this. Our colleague, Kalev Myers, a lawyer that we work closely with in Israel, who's a part of our coalition here that we're working on this, has met with the head of the International Red Cross in Geneva. And I expect that part of this is going to be exactly what you said, independent third party going in and verify. Some of our clients want to know if their kids or brothers and sisters are alive. I mean, that's a big part of this right now.
That's a lot of their concern is just, we just want to know that our brother, our sister, whatever it is, that they're even alive, because they have heard nothing. 45 days and they've heard nothing.
They've heard nothing from the Red Cross. They've heard nothing from the international community. They've heard nothing from Hamas. All right, we're going to take calls when we come back from the break. 1-800-684-3110. Rick Grinnell is going to join us. I was thinking about this yesterday, Logan. I had to send something late last night to Israel, and they wanted to know who we're working with. And when you put that list together, the people that we're working with, and I did it last night. So, it started with Attorney General John Ashcroft back after 9/11 when he left the Bush administration in 2004. It's Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State and Director of the CIA. It's Rick Grinnell, former Director of National Intelligence and Ambassador to Germany. We've got, of course, Tulsi Gabbard, a member of the United States Congress that works with the broadcast. So it's an unbelievable team that we've assembled, but none of that happens without the support of our donors.
That's right. You can become one of those ACLJ supporters right now during the Faith and Freedom Drive, which is for the month of November, which we appreciate right now. Obviously, we are working nonstop to get the hostages free. We are working on also the potential new IRS targeting that's coming up. There's so much happening in the world of the ACLJ, and we got a brand new feature film coming out this week. We couldn't do any of that without your support. We're in the last 10 days of the Faith and Freedom Drive. Make your tax-deductible gift today, and it will be doubled, dollar for dollar. Go to aclj.org. Again, donate today. Donations will be doubled. You can also check that and become an ACLJ champion, which is someone who said, I'm dedicated to becoming a reoccurring supporter each and every month, which helps give us a great baseline budget. We'll be right back. This is the time of year when we give thanks for all the blessings in our lives, our family, our health. But what about our more profound blessings that we as Americans are privileged to enjoy?
Our faith, our freedom, unique liberties that so many people around the world can only dream about.
Freedom to worship, freedom to speak. They're fragile freedoms that must be vigorously defended.
And we've witnessed the attacks on faith and freedom on a global scale.
It's time to take a bold step.
To join us in the fight.
To join us in upholding the Constitution. And to defend the freedoms you hold most dear for your family,
for our country, and for the world.
Go to aclj.org to support our Faith and Freedom Drive.
This time of years, we're giving thanks, celebrating our liberties that we have in the United States. We also see those liberties are under attack. Freedom to speak, our freedom of religion. Victories that we have won over decades are being refought again in courts and in the halls of Congress, in international institutions. We're seeing, of course, the conflicts raging around the world, not just in Ukraine, but now in the Middle East and our ally, Israel, which is so important to so many of our ACLJ supporters. So our liberties here at home, you know they're under attack. Our friends, our allies around the world are under attack as well. That's why this Faith and Freedom Drive is so important for you to donate. Dollar for dollar. You donate, we match. Dollar for dollar, each donation. This is an important time, the most important time, to support the work of the ACLJ.
It's Logan's birthday, so we all want to say, and put this in the chats and comments, happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
You wanted to step out for a moment. And
well, no, I was,
because we got Rick, I was going to talk to Rick, but Rick may want to wish you a happy birthday, too.
I mean, I love talking to Rick, but sometimes, I don't get a lot of words into these segments, so, thank you, though. I appreciate it.
And happy birthday.
I appreciate it.
And your son texted me last night. I love that I get text from Riker.
What, did he just remind you? By the way, tomorrow.
Yes, that's what he did. He said, tomorrow's my dad's birthday. Don't forget. So do something.
Yeah, okay.
So there we did it. Rick, welcome. It's good to have you. Let me say this. I want to get your comment on the hostage situation first. That there's a possible release of at least some of the women and children. Get your reaction to that in Israel.
Well, first of all, happy birthday, Logan.
Thank you.
I hope you have a good day today. Look, I think my reaction is we should not be bifurcating the hostages into groups. We need all of the hostages released. If we don't have all of the hostages released, then we shouldn't give any deal. Once you start separating these hostages, you are creating a system where the remaining hostages have a higher bounty on their head. This is a really bad precedent. We should be demanding that Hamas release all of the hostages. They don't need a long pause for this. They just need to have political will to release them. I think it's important that our Secretary of State be camped out in Qatar and putting the pressure on Hamas leaders who are comfortably ensconced in Doha, and they are calling the shots inside Gaza in a comfortable place where they're counting their money. And I think this is unacceptable.
So that's our position. I mean, they think they should just all be, first of all, we need to be accounted for first. We don't even know who they are. I mean, we say there's 243. There's been no list. There's been no verification. There's been no Red Cross. No one's gone in and checked anything. The government there in Israel is under unbelievable internal pressure, as you can imagine. And you would understand it better than anybody. So this is a process. Hamas has to be eliminated. that's job one is the military has to eliminate Hamas. Job 1A with that is get the hostages back. I don't think they have to be distinct. I wanted to get your sense, though, on the excuse me. I want to get your sense on the split that's emerging between the Biden administration on the attacks on U.S. troops as to how to handle that.
Well, look, first of all, I'm frustrated with some of our House leadership, especially committee chairmen, because we don't know what the intel showed. We don't know the intel failures of Afghanistan. We don't know the intel failures of Israel and Gaza. We literally are in the dark, but we don't have our chairmen who are pushing for Avril Haines and others to come forward and to be transparent about what's happening. I think that there is discussion within the U.S. government, within our allies' conversation about what to do next. But first, we should start with what do we know and what were the failures, if any? Did we just miss the analytical part? We knew the raw data, but we just didn't put it together with the analysts. But we need to know the facts before we figure out how to move forward and what to do. Lastly, I'll just say, on behalf of the governments that have to deal with hostages, it's a very difficult situation because you don't want to encourage new hostages. Right. So you have to think about those issues, but at the same time, you want to be sensitive to the families who undoubtedly want their loved one back no matter what.
There was a meeting yesterday between the families and the War Cabinet and then also the Knesset. It was very heated because the concern the families were having is that the priority one should be the hostages, and some of the leadership of Israel said priority one is the elimination of Hamas. We also want to get the hostages back, and they did not like the order of which the priorities are. But like you said, Rick, these are really complex. We've done hostage negotiations. You've done them. We've worked together on some, and these are very complicated, and you got to think nine-dimensionally in these things. And I don't like separating the spheres either, because what it's also going to do is once you get, let's say, they say maybe up to 100. Let's say you get 100 released, and the only people they're holding then are Israelis, right? They let the internationals go. I'm assuming they do that eventually, or in this first 5. Is the Israelis, mostly males that are, and some females that are military. And everybody says, well, now it's an Israel military problem. It's really not a world problem anymore. I am very worried about that happening.
Look, it's very difficult for governments to make policy in order to find the individual hostages. I get that the families need to make this a priority and they need to keep pressuring, and let's all pray for peace for those families and for safety for the hostages. But at the end of the day, the government is responsible for protecting the group, for protecting all of their citizens, and they cannot make short-term decisions, as hard and as difficult as it is. You need government officials who are very confident that they are focused on protecting the citizenry and not making dramatic emotional mistakes.
There was comments yesterday in a lot of the Israeli media, and I had this discussion with my wife yesterday, and that is the job one has to be here, the survival of the state of Israel and the elimination of these threats. That means right now it's Hamas, then it's Hezbollah, and ultimately it means Iran. And if that's not done, if that's not priority one, and we're advocates for the hostages. Israel is in real jeopardy. The United States is also in a very unusual situation here, Rick, with these 61 attacks on our bases. And the response from the Biden administration is muted at best and conflicting.
It's totally conflicting. Remember, we go back to John Kirby 2 weeks ago, saying that they did not have specific intelligence that showed attacks on Americans. That's just not true. We've seen 61 attacks, and clearly we have enough intelligence to do some pinpricking as a response. There is a difference between a credible threat of military action and just a threat of military action, because right now what we have is the U.S. military and the White House are on defense. Right. They are trying to figure out how to pinprick and do some little things while we have multiple attacks on U.S. government personnel and U.S. government property. We need to be able to push back in a very serious way and send the strong message that you should not be shooting down our drones. You should not be attacking Americans or American bases. And yet this continues. So they are not getting the message. Houthis aren't getting the message. Iran is not getting the message. Hamas is not getting the message. Somehow the messenger is not breaking through, and the messenger is Anthony Blinken and Joe Biden.
Let's go ahead and take a phone call. Logan at 800-684-3110.
Julie's calling in California, line 1. You're on the air.
Hi, Jay and Logan. My comment, first of all, is about donating to the ACLJ. I am so happy that for once you are calling us champions instead of victims. I'm so sick of being called, getting points for being a victim. And we're champions when we donate to the ACLJ every month. So that's great. And during the Faith and Freedom, you double it. And I'm just all for that. And I'm going to give as much as I possibly can this month.
Thank you.
My question is, I'm not clear, even though you've talked about it, what exactly the ACLJ can do to convince Hamas to release prisoners, because it's not like you can sue Hamas and they're going to care. I mean,
so let me let Cece do it, and then Rick will respond as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, and real quickly, the ECLJ, they are able to, our European Center for Law and Justice, they're able to lobby at the Council of Europe and the European Parliament, and we've helped with resolutions that condemn Hamas and absolutely support Israel. We also are able to file with the UN Working Group on enforced or involuntary disappearances, and that's on behalf of specific clients, Israeli family members that have hostage members.
We're about to have 6 more of those. And Rick, you worked the UN for, it's a rough place, and I don't like it, but you got. I believe in the Ministry of Presence. You got to be there. You were there for a decade.
Look, you got to be there. You got to be able to pull the levers, to be very specific about what you're asking for. And for Julie's question, what I would also respond is ACLJ does a great job through all of our partners to be able to put pressure on people like Jake Sullivan who are making these decisions. Once you articulate a very serious and thoughtful position about making sure that pressure Qatar, for instance, having experts that understand what levers to pull is exactly the type of pressure that ACLJ needs to be doing. And I would say they're in a very unique position to have the team members that we have to be able to push on those issues.
Rick, appreciate it as always. Glad you're part of the team. Thank you for your comments and your assistance in so many of these important matters. Folks, we're getting ready to go to the last segment. We'll take your calls. We're going to talk about our upcoming movie. Excited about that. But also, you can support the work of the ACLJ. We are in our Faith and Freedom Drive, as the caller mentioned. Any amount you donate is doubled. If you can do it monthly, you can make a monthly gift, then you're an ACLJ champion. And we're at over 17,500 of those ACLJ champions right now. My goal, our goal, I should say, the team's goal, is by next year we have 30,000. So we're working on that. Your support makes a huge difference. ACLJ.org, it's Faith and Freedom Drive, and any amount you donate is going to be doubled. So that's great for us. And November, December, our biggest months of the year. We're going to take calls coming back. We're also going to talk about a brand new movie. Logan, you got 7 seconds to promote it.
That's right. Jinglesmells.movie, brand new Christmas movie coming out on Thanksgiving.
What does it mean to be an ACLJ champion?
Becoming an ACLJ champion means joining us in the fight for liberty, in the fight for law, in the fight for peace, in the fight for freedom.
The battles being fought in courtrooms right now will decide what kind of future our kids will have tomorrow.
So when you join as an ACLJ champion, we now actually have a baseline to know what we can possibly accomplish. And look, the dream is vast.
Being a champion means that you get to come alongside churches who are being zoned out of properties, who are being forced to obtain liquor licenses simply to operate, coming alongside students who are being told they can't read their Bible in school or even bring it.
Becoming an ACLJ champion allows us to take on more cases internationally. In places where Christian persecution is happening on a daily basis. The need for the defense of these Christians is overwhelming, and we can't do it without you.
Becoming an ACLJ champion means getting into a fight with deep state elites who are attacking our school children, who are attacking pro-life Christians.
We have lawyers right now winning in courtrooms across the world, but none of it would matter without the ACLJ champions. Simply put, We don't win unless ACLJ champions continue to step up.
We can't do what we do without you.
By becoming a monthly donor, you can become a champion of life.
A champion of liberty, a champion of freedom.
Please join us.
Please join us.
Please join us. Become an ACLJ champion today.
Welcome back to Sekulow. Wrapping up today's broadcast, talking about a new project that we have going on at the ACLJ. I think what's been very important to us is how we can make sure our message is heard on all forms of media. So whether that is on traditional terrestrial radio, whether that is on podcasts, whether that's being live on something like Rumble or on Facebook or YouTube, we're available everywhere. We also know that you have to be in the courtrooms. We have to be fighting for you from a legal perspective. But also one of the biggest things that we can do to affect culture is to get involved in the space of entertainment. And that is exactly what we're doing right now with one of our first ever feature films. We've partnered with Sean Hannity. Sean and I are executive producers of a brand new movie that is premiering exclusively on Rumble on Thanksgiving Day. It is called Jingle Smells. It is a Christmas comedy without the Hollywood agenda, but with messages that are going to be important to you and your family. A lot of the important topics we talk about here at the ACLJ are covered in this. What is a fun packaging? We've said silly package. You unwrap it to find that it has a lot of heart, whether that's standing up to cancel culture, whether that's supporting our military, and what that looks like. And honestly, it's just a great story about redemption and hope and about Christmas spirit. And it is an incredible piece. I'm very proud of it. One of the co-writers of it. And I hope you guys will all join me. It's my birthday. I'm going to ask you for my birthday.
What a birthday present.
What I would love you to do is go buy Jingle Smells. It's coming out on Thanksgiving. We did that intentionally. So Thanksgiving night, you have something to do with your family. Now, a lot of you will be sitting around not sure what to do. Well, this is a completely funny and also family-centered film. While it's not necessarily a kids movie, I don't want to make you think if you don't have kids that you're not going to enjoy it. It's a comedy, more like in the 90s Christmas, 90s Christmas comedies we grew up with, whether that is a Christmas Vacation or a Home Alone. But we say kind of like the TBS version. Great cast. You have John Schneider, obviously from the Dukes of Hazzard. You have Academy Award nominee Eric Roberts. You've got James Storm. You got Brad Stein. You've got Ben Davies, our lead, who you may know from the Daily Wire and from Courageous and War Room. We have so many great people in this film. Victoria Jackson, Jim Brewer.
Two SNL alums.
Yes, and it feels like an SNL moment that happens with them.
Yeah.
They share the screen, and it is a terrific movie. It's just over an hour and a half. Great time to sit down and watch this film. It's available for $19.99. And once you do that, you can watch it as many times as you want. But we encourage you to pre-order it right now, and it'll be available for you on Thanksgiving. And it is a project of the ACLJ. I want to make sure people know that. So when you do support that, a large percentage of the revenue goes straight back to the organization.
Can we go ahead and run the trailer, and then I'm going to do a pitch here?
Sure, absolutely. Go take a look. Here is the official trailer to Jingle Smells.
You know, it's very hard to find a place that even comes close to being worthy of your beauty.
It's romantic.
It's about you and me alone.
Wow, look at the two of you.
Merry Christmas, America. Hollywood has canceled Mason Stone.
Stone will be digitally replaced by AI. Boycott Stone!
We will no longer be manufacturing Mason Stone characters. Get them all out of here by Christmas Eve.
You gotta be kidding me.
How'd you get it? Oh, fell off the truck. There was a truck involved. The mysterious gift giver has struck again.
If you get busted with those toys, you're done. And you made me an accessory.
Well, you know what they say. Some accessories are required.
Am I smiling?
No.
Jingle smells, stinking all the way.
They called me Jingle Smells.
Yeah, I know.
That's it, premiering on Rumble on Thanksgiving Day. And look, there are, just on Rumble right now, there are almost 2,000 of you watching. I'm just going to encourage you. Go over to, you're at Rumble right now. As soon as this is over, type in Jingle Smells. It'll come up. It's the first thing. And you can watch it and buy it right now.
I'm going to ask people to do that exactly when the program is over. Or they can do it now if they like. But I'd like you to listen to the rest of the program. But
yeah, 5 minutes left.
Yeah, 5 minutes left. We're going to have you, especially in Rumble, because there's, like you said, there's over 2,000, almost 2,000 people watching on Rumble, and that'll be quadrupled many times tonight.
Yeah, that's just live.
So this movie hits a lot of the topics we deal with at the ACLJ: cancel culture, First Amendment, big faith component to it.
Absolutely.
It's funny. It's a heartwarming movie. It's real. It deals with the military and some of what the military deals with. Like we said, great cast. So you go to jinglesmells.movie, and you could download it from there. People love the video you put together. I don't know if we have that we could play.
I don't think it's worth playing on air because it's quite a bit, but we know that some of you ask, well, how do I watch Rumble on my TV? How do I get this?
How do they? Tell them right here.
The easiest way, easiest thing, we give you 5 steps. We take what should be 2 steps and break it down to 5. You can find that video on all our social media pages.
Me and your mother's age.
Exactly. We break it down step by step on how to do it. But essentially, the Rumble app is available on most smart TVs and almost all smart devices. So if you have an Apple TV or if you have a Fire or Roku, it's available there. If you have an iPhone, it's available on there. If you have a Samsung TV or a Sony TV that's relatively recent, in the last decade or so, it's available there. So all you have to do, buy it on our website, log in on your, download the app, log in like you would a Netflix or whatever, and it's available right there. You just type in Jingle Smells, pops right up. And that's it. If you're on Rumble right now, just type in Jingle Smells. It'll be the first thing that pops up. You'll see click buy access since 1999. Again, it's executive produced by us and by Sean Hannity, so you know what you're getting in terms of messages, and you know it's free of all Hollywood agenda. We're saying it's the number one heartwarming, humorous, and free of Hollywood agenda movie. And our goal, and I'm being honest, the lofty goal for Hollywood is to take on Hollywood, not to just we're not going to say take down Hollywood. We want to be there and be part of that conversation. We believe Jingle Smells could be the number one new Christmas movie this year, and we can do that with your support. It is more than just a silly, fun comedy. Has a lot of heart, a lot of message, but also it sends a message to Hollywood. We've seen that happen. We have seen it start to happen this year, and you can be a part of that now in the world of family comedy. There are some incredible movies that have come out this year. Maybe they're not the ones you can sit around with your kids and watch.
Yep.
This one, you can. You're going to be entertained. And obviously, not only is that incredible cast in it, I make a brief cameo. Jordan makes a brief cameo. The J. Sekulow Band makes an appearance.
Yeah, an appearance, not just a cameo.
Yeah, no, you got a full-blown appearance. And then a lot of the faces you've seen here make little pop-ups. And Governor Mike Huckabee even plays a very creative role. So you have to keep your ears peeled for
Mike to do that.
Yes, it was. So keep your eyes out. We have that coming. It comes out on Thanksgiving Day. It is really a fun movie, but really it's important to be a part of that conversation.
And I'm super excited about it. As a mom who's always looking for something that's family friendly, and I know my kids are even older, but I want something that's just fun, and especially on Thanksgiving, I want to see something after we've eaten the big meal. I want to go and do it. I cannot wait to watch it Thanksgiving.
Yeah, if you're tired of Hollywood, this is the perfect movie to really re-engage with what's happening and still have something to be entertained by.
I was going to say that. We did this. This is an ACLJ film. So portion of the proceeds goes directly to the ACLJ, so that's a big part of this. We're trying to make a stand on so many issues, whether it's on this broadcast, whether it's in the courts, whether it's in the legislature, international, but also in Hollywood, that family-friendly movies with messages actually work, and we want to make this a success. So those of you that are on any of our social media platforms right now, I encourage you to do this. Go to Rumble, rumble.com. It's that simple. If you're on Rumble, just type into the search bar, right?
Yeah, I mean,
now.
You can just go to also rumble.com/jinglesmells. It'll take you right to the page.
Okay.
So that's an easy way to do it. But an easier way is probably if you're trying to figure that out, jinglesmells.movie. There's a big giant button that says order on Rumble. Just click that. Follow the instructions.
We do want to have as many people. It's going to come out on Thursday, but we want as many pre-orders as we can because then we're going to really go into Logan and I are hosting Sean Hannity's broadcast tomorrow.
That's right.
Which is going to have we're going to have some of the guests, the people that started the movie.
Right. You're going to have Ben Davies, who's the lead, again, from the Daily Wire. You are from Courageous War Room. You're going to have John Schneider on as well. And John Schneider, I believe, is going to come in the studio next week to keep talking about the movie as well.
Great.
So he'll be here next Wednesday to talk about it in person. But we're going to also have him on the Hannity broadcast tomorrow.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. So it's jinglesmells.com.
movie.
Jinglesmells.movie.
Yep.
To be clear. Jinglesmells.movie. And if you're on Rumble right now, which many are, all you do is type it in the search engine.
You'll see. It's
Jingle
the first
Smells,
thing.
and there it is. Please order it today. We'd love to start off with a being ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
here.
we'd love to have a big opening day. That's very important in terms of movies, and we couldn't do it without you. Over 400,000 on just Rumble. 420,000 have watched the trailer,
which is
so
amazing.
We are very encouraged. That's over 800,000 or so across platforms. So be a part of this movement. Jinglesmells.movie. We'll see you on Thanksgiving with it.